My area looks so busy over here. Like, this is an actual writing test. Oh my gosh. I use it, like my whole family use it. And I will not be able to concentrate with all this going on behind me. I'm like looking at the camera, I'm like, oh God, this is so... Things get done here. But it doesn't have to look that way, you know? A bit better. And now I'm ready. Today I want to talk about Riley Daniels' journey in my book world that started with Last Comes Love and is concluding with Here Comes Love, which is a story that comes out on February 19th. So let's start by talking about this book because this book changed a lot of things for me, and without this book there would not have been a lot of other books that came after it. So let's get into it. Hey, I'm Brookelyn Mosley, and I am a Black romance storyteller and self-published author of over 50 plus stories. And today I want to talk about my bittersweet love story, Last Comes Love. Now, this book changed the way that I write, how I wrote my books, and just overall changed the way I view stories, and changed my life too, because after writing this book, the way that I view time and relationships shifted a great deal. I feel like this was one of those books where I could tap into the deeper meanings of life and to bring that forth in a easy to digest kind of way. So let's start by me talking about my first experience with a bittersweet love story. So my first experience was with Zane's Afterburn. It was a story that I read. I don't remember how old I was when I read the story, but I remember having read a bunch of Zane books before it. Books that were mostly erotica, and this particular one is romance. No, not romance. It was a bit more romantic than her other stories in her catalog. But yeah, I read Afterburn. I remember enjoying it, loving it. I remember not realizing it was a bittersweet love story. I remember not even knowing what a bittersweet love story was. I don't think that she refers to it as a bitter love story. But it was a book that I really enjoyed and that ended in a way that was shocking to me and changed the way I viewed romances and love stories, although people would not categorize it as a romance because of how it ended. She said that she was going to be releasing a follow-up. That was years ago. I don't think it's been released. Trust me, I have been checking, but I am still waiting because I love that story, and I would love to see the MMC's journey continue. There was some kind of hint of it going to continue in the late chapter, in the last chapter I think it was. So I'm still holding out hope. So that was my first experience with a bittersweet love story. So when the idea of a story that inspired this story happened, I entertained it. Story about a man who, in the opening chapter, I always knew that in the opening chapter he would be at his doctor's office and the doctor would be sharing with him that he only has a certain amount of time to live. And the man who had a friend who he'd been friends with for many, many years, I don't think they were friends from the time we were children, but they were friends for many, many years. He goes to the friend and he shares with her this news, and he says that the one thing that he regrets, is that he didn't have any children and he would love to have children, but he doesn't have a girlfriend, he's not dating anyone, and he doesn't have any possible suitors either. So they agree to make a baby together so that he could have his final wish, his last wish. And through the course of the story of that idea, they go through the different stages of pregnancy, preparing for the birth of this baby. In the process, they fall in love. But that story, that idea, ends with him never meeting the baby because he passes away shortly before the baby's birth. So I didn't, and what I did, so I did not go along with that idea. Obviously, it sounds very similar to Last Comes Love, but I didn't go with that idea because I didn't want to write a story where we're witnessing his decline chapter after chapter after chapter. To me, I just felt like that's just too much. I couldn't do it. I could do it, I could write it, but I just didn't want to put myself through that. So I left that story idea alone, worked on other story ideas, and then I got struck with another idea after having Brookelyn dolls made, which was like for stickers and for my my totes and stuff, my book totes. And there was one character who had like her head wrap, and she had big earrings with Brooklynite in the center of like a nameplate. And I remember looking at this doll and having this idea for a story for her, but her story was incomplete. So her story was, she is this woman who loves love and is constantly looking for it everywhere that she goes, and she's falling for guys who are less than worthy of being in her company, and she keeps getting her heart broken, and she keeps on experiencing the bad aspects of dating and relationships. And right when she is ready to give up, she finds love in her best friend, her friend who she's been best friends with forever. And yeah, so they end up getting together. But again, the story to me was incomplete. There's so much that you can write in something like that where, best friends love, where it just kind of starts to drag on. It feels more like a short story. Some stories you can just tell, for me at least, what's going to be, like if it's going to be a short story, a novella, a novel, you can tell. And that was more of a short story, and it wasn't meaty enough for me. So when I was planning on stories that I would need to write for the year, I remember that story and I remember the other story, and I decided to combine the two, but with a few changes. I made a few changes in the MMC's story, and after softening it a bit, not too much, I put them together, and that's how we got Last Comes Love. So Last Comes Love was the very first story I wrote with two different point of views. Before, it would just be the FMC's point of view. I would just do that. I liked it. That was the central point of view, is what I call it, and what it's sometimes referred to, is what a lot of the books that I read, as I was growing up. It was mainly from the woman's point of view. Some of my favorite authors, Sister Soldier, Honey B. Morrison, who's Mary B. Morrison, and Zane, they would write from central point of view, mostly, So yeah, so I would always write through central point of view, is my point. But this book was the first time I wrote in dual, because their stories were separate. The decision to write this story in that way opened up a brand new way of the way that I told stories, because although I would read books after I started to self-publish my central point of view stories, and I would see the dual point of views, and I would enjoy it, I never really considered doing it myself until this book. So yeah, after this book, when I did dual point of view, I've stuck with that the entire time. This bittersweet love story changed the way I wrote stories, period. Response to Last Comes Love was exactly as I expected it to be, especially because of that particular chapter and how the story ended. The readers who this book was supposed to find found it, and they connected the characters in the way that it was written to be connected to. And the readers who absolutely did not care, the readers who I guess were looking for a different kind of experience when they read this story were very pissed and were not quiet about how pissed they were, which I totally understood, and I knew the risk of that, which is why I was very nervous when I published the story. Even when I wrote the story, when I had gotten to that chapter, and I had to close my laptop for days because I needed to collect myself after writing that chapter. I knew, like, okay, this is going to be one of those things that is going to be divided. It's going to be mixed because it's a bittersweet love story. And if you don't know what a bittersweet love story is, you need to look it up first before you dive in. But if you want to get on that journey with Riley Daniels, then you would start here for a deeper emotional context. So now, after this story concluded, I knew that I wanted to continue Riley's story, and I did, but of course I did it with a bit of nervousness because there were people. Okay, so in my author note, I believe I said, Riley's journey is going to continue, and in a couple of reviews, people were like, Riley does not need to go and find love anywhere else. Her love was Lennox, and look what happened, So, some were like, I'm not very interested in seeing her starting a relationship with anybody else. And that to me was like a challenge, because it was like, okay, I like that. I see what it is that you're saying. I understand what it is that you're saying. However, yeah, her journey is going to continue, because even though it is a bittersweet love story, even though it ends the way that it ends, it is a love story nonetheless. And it deserves to be told. I felt like a really strong pull to tell this story. And I don't know, the story wouldn't leave me alone. The characters kept on speaking, scenes were unfolding in my mind. As many times as I tried to focus on other projects and just to put his story to the side, I had to tell it, and I'm happy I did. And I'm happy that we're continuing Riley's journey. So Riley's journey continues in Ready or Not, which is the first book in the spin-off series of Parallel Love. That series is all about love after loss. Ready or Not is like the start of Riley's journey as a mom of two young children, as a business owner, and as someone who is mourning the loss of a best friend she has known all of her life. Let's remember that before Lennox became a love interest for Riley, he was her best friend. And this is someone who when she can think back to every milestone in her life, every memory from the time that she was little, Lennox was there. So now she's having to continue life without him and getting to know herself without him. And the A Parallel Love series is all about us, Riley and us, getting to know her in this new phase of her life where the old her cannot exist there. So in Ready or Not, I don't have the cover for that one. Not yet. Soon. In Ready or Not, Riley is not looking for love. She has already decided that she had love. Love allowed her to bring two beautiful children into the world. She's going to focus on her career, her friends, her family, and that's it. And she doesn't need anything else. So she's not actively looking for love, even though, like, at the start of her story, at the start of book 1, her therapist is asking, how's dating going? She doesn't care for it. But for Riley, love has a way of just kind of showing up for her. And that's what happens in Ready or Not. She meets Xander, which, I felt like his appearance in that book had to be something that seemed very unplanned, just like regular day, and then boom, he pops up, because he's coming into a frame that people are already not interested in. There's readers who are already like, she doesn't need another love. She had Lennox. Her story doesn't have to continue, but I think it does. I feel like love stories, romances ought to have more depth than everybody being perfect when they meet, and the circumstances being perfect and everything just lining up, because alignment can happen in spaces that seem chaotic. There can still be some form of meant to be-ness in something that seems less ideal. Like there's beauty in the flaws. There's beauty in things that don't seem like they're going in the right way or going the right way, you know. And that's what I like to write. I love writing unconventional romances. It's one of the reasons I love writing unconventional romances. And I love writing stories with people who are really trying to figure it out, because that's what we're all trying to do. We're all trying to figure it out, and as we're figuring it out, love can happen. And that is exactly what happens for Riley in Ready or Not. So Ready or Not is more of, it was a novella. It's more of us, like I said, getting to know Riley in this new frame. And now Here Comes Love is her final journey in my book world. Here Comes Love is a continuation of book one, her relationship with Xander and her accepting herself, moving on from Lennox. For Riley, she wants to maintain a lot in this new life. She wants Lennox to be still around, even in spirit, and she facilitates that, and she points us out, but she has photos of him everywhere. She's constantly telling the children about their dad. She is actively maintaining Lennox's memory, but at the same time, she has found this person who is perfect for her. Okay, he has literally been designed to be perfect for Riley. He loves children. He's a career man. He's very open. His heart is very open. He understands her situation. He wants to be her soft place to land. Like, he does everything that he can to be a soft place to land. However, Riley is feeling like she doesn't know how to do both. She doesn't know how to grieve and maintain Lennox's memory while creating a new memory and a new life with someone who is perfect for her. So there's so many moments in Here Comes Love that I cannot wait for you guys to read and to share your thoughts on. As Riley's final journey in my book world, I felt like this story was so deserved and so earned. When I wrote this story, I wrote it in a way that was realistic, because that's all I know how to do, you guys. I know that sometimes I can write the really cute and fluffy and super sweet romances. You know, check out my holiday romances. That's usually where I let that flow. I let it do what it do over there, you know. But for my romances and my love stories, I favor realism. I favor fiction, and I favor things, because it is a book. It just, you know, having that whimsical quality, I favor that as well. But for me, I like it to make sense, and realism makes things make sense for me in my stories. So it taps into a lot of realism. Some of the feedback that I have gotten is that Riley will challenge the way you feel about her as she is journeying through this new world of hers. But I feel like there's so many. I learned a lot writing this story. About myself. I feel like the theme of a parallel love is that two things can exist at once. You don't have to choose between the two. You can do both. You know, healing and grieving can go alongside falling in love or ascending in love and becoming who you are always meant to be. And although it isn't this picture perfect journey, that it has its snags and it has its flaws, being that you are alive and you are living and you are healing and you are growing, which healing is a lifelong thing, it can still be just as beautiful. They can all move in accord and alongside each other. So Here Comes Love is available on February 19th. This is like the final book that will close out the only open series in my catalog. After that, I'm moving on to a new series which I'm working on right now, the Love is Cure Volume 2 series, which I'll be talking to you about in my next video. I'll have a trailer for the series. There's so much that I want to talk about that series, but for now, Here Comes Love. You gotta read that book. Like, I'm not even just saying that because I wrote it. I'm saying it because you got it. If you read this book and you felt something with this book, you gotta read Here Comes Love. But before you read Here Comes Love, you have to read Ready or Not first. Because A, it is book one in the series, and two, for you to fully understand Riley and her growth and how she moves throughout Here Comes Love, you gotta read both. You gotta read it. So yeah, I'm really excited for you guys to come into this world. I truly enjoyed creating the story for Riley. I really did. Xander, he's taking it. I mean, when I wrote Wrath and I created Asher's character, I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna be able to top this guy, you know, because he was the way that all of my MMCs are not the same. You know, they're not. They are the characters that fit the plot. My plots are my main focus, and then it's like I get the story first and then I cast the characters. And when I cast the characters, I cast the characters who would find themselves in the situations that I create and who would know how to navigate or figure out how to navigate to then grow from where it is that they're coming from. So all of the MMCs, all the FMCs, they are not the same. It's a world at the end of the day, and everyone in the world are not the same. We're not all the same. So that's what I try to illustrate in my story. So all my MMCs are not the same. However, there are a few that are just like, they're just, I don't want to say perfect. They're perfect for the FMC. I would say that. But like, there's characters that stand out for me at least. And Asher was one of those characters from Wrath, and I didn't think that I would be able to top him, but I don't know. Xander is taken in. You'd have to read Here Comes Love to see what I'm talking about. But for now, thank you so much for press and play on episode 5. 5 episodes in, final book in the final book that's going to be published for and the only open series in my catalog. We are moving on. Like, this is kind of like an end of an era for me, because 10 years, this is the book that will round out my 10 years in self-publishing. And after that, we're going into a massive 8-book series. So I'll talk a little bit more about that. That's Love is Cure Volume 2 in my next video. For now, click the like button, leave a comment, and tell me what you thought about this one. How are you excited to read Here Comes Love? Because I'm very excited for you to do so too. See you next time. Bye.